Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm back today, but I'm doing something a little bit different. As you can see, I'm not holding any, album, EP, or demo here, because instead I decided to do a review from material from a band that is on MySpace right now. It has a freely downloadable EP that just came out a little while ago. And that band, of course, is called The Oracles. The Oracles is a band from the United Kingdom, and not one I've been familiar with for a long time, but one whose material I can find very enjoyable. They have their first EP downloadable right now as a limited time sort of deal, and that is called The Journey Towards the Paths of Light. This is a band that combines progressive elements with other metal influences such as groove metal, death metal, and more straightforward rock tones. It's a great fusion of styles, and this is definitely not a band that can be categorized easily. This release has 5 tracks on it, and I think I actually listened to them in the wrong order because it wasn't obvious as to what order I'm supposed to listen to them when I actually downloaded this EP. But I don't think that's really going to affect my opinion here. I still listen to all the tracks and enjoy them. Now, what you really get on here, as I mentioned, is that great merging of different styles and sort of a mashup of different influences there. Each song has a little bit of a different spin on it, though they do flow well from one to the other and have a lot of consistency nonetheless. Definitely, Towards the Path of Light was a very interesting track to listen to because there's that, groove metal aspect to it, that deep tone. And part of that, deep tone was the mixture of guitar and bass. You can definitely hear that the music here is more focused, say, on the instrumentals than the actual vocal work. But nonetheless, I'm going to start talking about the vocals and then get into the instrumental as I sort of describe this particular release here. The vocals were definitely, fairly well done, and there's a good diversity to them, sort of between the clean vocal style and the more death metal / black metal oriented style. I particularly enjoyed the clean vocals because I felt they complemented the abstractness of the music a lot better than the heavier death metal influenced vocals there. And I thought the production and mixing on the clean vocals was done very well. Audible, you can make out the lyrics, and it sounded good. But my main gripe with the vocals were really the darker, more death metal inspired vocals, which were fairly raspy and a mixture, or sort of falling in between the traditional death metal style and more of a black metal influence. That's not to say that the darker vocal tones were not well done. My main problem was that I couldn't make them out well enough, and because of that, it didn't really stand out to me. So, enjoyable but not necessarily memorable. The guitar tone on this particular release is sort of a mixture between the heavier, bassier tones and more of the lead guitar work. At times, the two guitar sort of vibes mash well together and form a consistent tone, and other times there's a lot of duality between sort of the lead guitar parts and the more bassy underlying vibe. And actually, both cases work out quite well. And it sort of made apparent that, guitars and bass are sort of the focus of this release and not necessarily the vocals. Now, I found the bass playing to be very audible, and I found that, the bass in general was very enjoyable and added a lot of depth and texture to the music. In the heavier sort of groove-inspired moments, the bass really came in at the forefront almost and joined the guitar quite well. And when the lead guitar was playing more floaty, up in the air type stuff, the bass sort of kept the songs grounded and had a rock bass to the track regardless. Now, the drumming in this release was good, but sort of like the vocals, it wasn't really the standout moment or sort of the standout attribute of the music. The fills were good, the timekeeping was good, and it actually fit the music in each of the different parts and each of the different styles. I'm not really going to get anything, like crazy drum solos or any breakout, stuff with the drums at the forefront of the music, but it blends in well, and it's actually, enjoyable if you just sit down and listen and try to enjoy the drumming for what it is. Now, the biggest musical question mark you really get on here is the inclusion of that organ tone, but for me, I thought it really complemented the music well. It had that melodic feel to it, which complemented the abstract nature of the sort of more progressive parts in a good way. If there's anything I didn't like on this particular release, it's when the band decided to do more of the straightforward, more rock-oriented stuff, such as on the track called The Journey. That for me was the low point of this release. A little bit too straightforward. When you compare it to like the other tracks, it just doesn't feel quite as well developed. And with that said, the parts I enjoyed the most were the clean vocal parts, regardless of whether or not it tied into the heavier, more groove or death metal oriented music, or the more floaty, more progressive, more abstract style. Like I said, the best parts of this music for me were that abstractness, and that's one of the elements that makes this feel unique. And I felt that when the band wasn't following up with that idea, this release didn't feel quite as unique as when they did that. So all in all, this is definitely a release that combines a nice mixture of styles. It shows a maturity that maybe is not common for bands that have just released their first EP. But regardless, there's still room for this band to grow in terms of the mixing and in terms of just the choices that they make in the songwriting process. So overall, this is enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this band comes up with next and to see how they grow as a band. Thanks for watching this video, and have a good one.